This is the Man Scout, Jake Manning, and you are listening to the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast. So pay attention and listen up, and that's a promise, Scouts Honor.
You're watching DCTV. Now here's your host, the voice, Dave Canning.
It's you, it's me, it's DCTV. It's you, it's me, it's DCTV. Let's start the show.
That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It is you, it is me, it is N.R.D. And today on episode 24 of the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast, the royalty has returned. The king, DaveCTheVoice, after winning our Heck in a Cell predictions, finally has the crown in its rightful place. But I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression. I have no association with that dastardly heel king, former king, Brian Anthony, because today on the Wrestling Nerd Broadcast, we are here with our special guest, the man who took down the crown, Mr. Man Scout himself, Mr. Jake Manning. Jake, thank you so much for coming on the show with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate for being here. So.
This is awesome. So we're gonna get right into it. As I mentioned, you did defeat Brian Anthony in the Crown versus Career match last year, and that was right before COVID shut everything down. So from a wrestler standpoint, how, obviously, besides the obvious of not being able to wrestle as frequently, how did that, affect you? And what was your mindset going through the whole pandemic as a professional wrestler?
You picked the most interesting person to ask that question to, because it has been a myriad of, everybody's going through a lot recently. But this has been, I don't even know where to begin. I went from the lowest of lows, got lower, went to the highest of highs, and then back down low again. And then I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in all this. This last year and months and change just been the weirdest time in my entire life. And you guys caught me on a very day as well. Nothing I can really share right now, but gosh darn, it has been a trip, to say the least. I can't even express to you or even tell you where even to begin. So my life was always kind of defined by pro wrestling, and now I have to figure something else out now and figure this out. And like I said, I'm just very speechless. I'm going to kick it back to you guys and just say that it's difficult and leave it as that. And hopefully you have some questions that can narrow it down, but it has been a struggle, to say the least.
Well, I'm quite sure of that. But so let's focus on the positives. Like I mentioned before we came on the air, that I'm going to get to see you with Northeast Wrestling in July. Obviously, we're filming this on Tuesday. I believe it's Resurrection is Sunday. Is that what it is for Northeast Wrestling?
I believe so.
I think that's the name of it. But unfortunately, I will be away, so I can't go to that. But I will be there for Heat Wave in July. So how exciting is it that you are going to get to perform in front of live, anxious crowds that are ready to just shower you and all your colleagues in the wrestling industry with love and just support again? How excited are you for that?
Not just wrestling crowd in general. We're talking about the Waterbury crowd, like the crowd that I debuted in front of, the crowd where I got my first win. That's a special crowd. Waterbury, Connecticut is just a big part of every good wrestling that I have. So for this to be my first turn back to Northeast Wrestling, it means a great deal to me.
Yes. If you ever want one of the loudest pops in wrestling, go watch Over the Top from 2019 when you won the Over the Top Royal, right?
Yeah.
One of the loudest ovations I've ever heard. Throws Brian Anthony. Well, I spoiled it. Sorry, everyone. But just that crowd erupts in just pure joy. It's one of the purest, happiest moments I think everyone's ever had in wrestling. So you get, to associate with one of those. So that was an awesome moment.
I mean, it's 10 years in the making. I mean, that's what those moments are for. And I think it kind of, like, people, you're not the only person to say that. But I have to get a big assist to the tin walls in the PAL. Yeah. I think that added a little bit of echo to that whole thing. So basically acoustics. Let's add a little bit on that when you said the biggest pop of all time.
But and also, so not just known for, I don't want to just narrow your career down to that pop. I also want to mention how you were immortalized in pint-sized all-star form. Ryan, you have the figure there. And it has become hard for many collectors to find now. Somebody mentioned on the secondary market, I looked them
up on eBay today, and they were going from like anywhere to like $60 to $100 now.
Which is surprising. I still have quite a few of them. So,
for sale or just in your personal collection?
For sale. I'm in the middle of like, I get a lot of issues with the merch site right now, and I had a place that was going to host it, and then that backed out, and now I'm pretty much going to have to do it myself now. So that's where I'm at on getting merch set up.
Well, we'll talk after this is done, because I need a Man Scout Pint-sized all-star for my collection, because my sister has one, and I can't let her be the only one that has one in this family.
Okay.
So, and I also want to ask, speaking of my sister, so when we were at Over the Top last year, Darby Allin was there defending the Northeast title against Dan Moff, and so she was really excited to meet Darby Allin. So she cosplayed as Darby Allin and got to meet him. But then, of course, she's a big fan of you. So fair warning, she's coming with me in July as well. But so she first of all, the look she got at TGI Fridays was great. The look she got from everyone else was great. And then she comes up to you and you're like, "Are you okay? You're among friends." Do you have any like weird stories of meet and greets, like just anything that's just caught you off guard?
Oh, that's a good question. That's something that's kind of been a popular question nowadays, especially with Colt Cabana's Anonymous podcast. Weird interactions like that. Man, like, there's just so. But the thing is, though, like the weird people, like I just kind of like I dig, and it never sticks with me because pro wrestling in general is just weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the unique character, so it's like. It all just kind of blends in with the whole atmosphere and alchemy of the situation of independent wrestling. There was this one guy, and I don't know why this is turned into a running bit with me and Zane Riley over the years. There was this guy, and he was just overly gushing about me because I had wrestled at this place the month prior, and then I was back again, and I had a really good match the month prior, and he just kept going on and on and on, and I really appreciated that, but the whole time I couldn't I just didn't know how to react because he looked like Mark David Chapman. And he kept gushing about how much of a big a fan he was of me. And he looked like Mark David Chapman. And then I'm just like, as soon as I was done with this wonderful fan left, I told Zane, I thought I was going to end up like John Lennon there. So so now anytime like a fan just gives me any type of praise or takes an extra second, being a good fan and being nice to me, I always will hear Zane Riley like 2 merch tables down going, "I love you, John Lennon," and just waiting for the gunshot to go off. So, I don't know why that's a thing, but that's a running bit we have. It happened from one fan in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, just being really nice to me and being a good fan. And for whatever reason, it's now spawned some sort of taunt in the middle of a meet and greet, just Zane Riley screaming about the assassination of one of the Beatles. I think that doesn't get a whole heck of a lot weirder than that.
So what you're saying is I should bring a copy of Catcher in the Rye with me to Heatwave.
Yes. On that note, 2 things. Do I make you nervous at all, Jake? We showed that I shaved right before this. I was trying to pull how you dress up like people.
Yeah.
Does this all make you nervous?
No, this is quite an homage, and I appreciate this. All of this, very nice. So
Notice
thank
how
you.
there's no pictures of his wife around at all. It's just you.
Well,
I assure you, this was put up prior. I'm shaving afterwards. I can't pull this look off like you. I shaved my head too. I'm not bald whatsoever. I have lovely locks. So just throw that in.
He even did a chin up this morning too, just to try and bulk up a little bit.
One's probably that I can do because I have bad shoulders and bad joints. I am held together barely.
Weird throw-in. Sorry, you mentioned Catcher in the Rye. I have a weird sense of humor. I found a Cliff Notes Catcher in the Rye like at a thrift store and bought it. I put it under my bed. Have you guys heard supposedly a lot of serial killers or those sort of, or I think I got it from a movie. They said that a lot of people have done bad things have that book. So there's some sort of correlation, but I bought that Cliff Notes, put it under my bed just in the hopes if someone's looking under my bed, they'll find it and get a little weirded out. Just saying,
I'm
that's my
nervous now.
that's my sort of sense of humor. Just saying.
Well, I mean, not the Cliff Notes version, the psych
Yeah.
thing. Like the Reader's
Cliff
Digest.
Notes, the Cliff Notes
Yeah.
version, he comes up to you with a water gun, not a real gun. So I can't help but notice the amazing X-Men collection you have behind you. So just if you were to pick this is just a random question. Other than Wolverine, which X-Men character do you think would make a great professional wrestler?
Oh, I thought you were going there because Cyclops is my favorite.
Okay.
If you can't tell that these are all X-Men comics featuring Cyclops on the cover, that's up there because he's my favorite. But as far as he's not going to be a good pro wrestler, he's gonna toil away in the indies and everybody's going to hate him, or he's going to guys that wrestled for 3 years and ends up in NXT and then gets released and then gets all the indie bookings. That's who Cyclops is. But I mean the Juggernaut, like if he can do some key.
That's what I was thinking too, Juggernaut.
Yeah. If Juggernaut can do tackle, drop down, leapfrog, drop kick like Keith Lee, I think Vince would just lose his mind over him.
I was thinking Beast.
Okay, all right. Not vascular enough for Vince, but okay, maybe good enough for Tony Khan.
I just thought Dr. Xavier just as a mouthpiece, but that's just me being an unathletic, broadcast student.
Don't have more. They stopped doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, unfortunately. How long have you been collecting X-Men comics? Like, is it like, are those from your childhood, or did you just one day say I'm going to start collecting X-Men?
Well, I mean, I have my comic book collection that are sentimental and they're held up in a box somewhere. And these are ones that I've kind of collected at cons that I've gone to over the years when I've wrestled for fantasy wrestling, and just something to do. Like, and also too, I love long box digging. Like, I love going to a con and just digging through and then trying to find one with I'm trying to find one with Cyclops on the cover. And I'm trying to, and since I'm tacking up on the wall, I can get like an older, like 70s, 60s version one that's a little more torn up. It's a little less price, and I'm just going to nail it to my wall, and that's fine. But it's like, oh, you got issue, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but it's in really shitty condition, so who cares? Because it's just a, talking point. It's something that I find pretty cool, and it's going to be the backdrop of, something really special, hopefully really soon.
Nice. Do you collect any other comics outside of X-Men, or are you just an X-Men guy?
For a long time, I collected every single Superman for probably about 2 years after the Doomsday thing. Like everything, I got big into that. So it's kind of DC there, and I had a few Batman comics. But you know what? The comic book that really liked, and I don't think a lot of people dug it, was the What If comics. I love those from Marvel. Is like these what if Spider-Man kept his extra forearms, or what if Phoenix didn't die, and just all these different things. Like the story, but kind of alternate endings and how that would have played out into interesting things. And I thought that was cool. So
that is cool. So I did want to backtrack to when we mentioned the Pintsized AllStars before. How did that process go? Who reached out to who? Did you reach out to somebody from Pintsized AllStars? Did they reach out to you? How does that process go for you?
I was kind of the guinea pig for a little bit. I think like High Spots wanted to get in the business of making some pint-sized all-stars, and I was like the test product. I think that's how it started. I think the expectation is that, you know, let's see how they sell with Jake, you know, and then they had a multitude of the wrestlers that they were going to do. And so they're like, well, let's just let Jake, you know, let's make it a pint-sized all-star Jake, and let's see what happens. I mean, if we sell 80 of Jake, then we could probably sell 300 of Diamante or Sergeant Slaughter or whoever. And like they had all these plans of doing more of those with people, and mine dropped, and it just exploded, and nobody in the office really anticipated or even expected it to be as big as it was. And like I said, I was just supposed to be a test subject for far more famous people to get them. But then it kind of just got to a point like, whoa, this was a big deal. And almost, I think it kind of in the office, it almost became this special thing that it was like, oh, like, I don't know if we could replicate that. You know, like we could do those other things, but I don't know if we would have quite the success because of it. Because, like I said, how popular VGT was at the time, and like people really cared, and people wanted like something cool like that to happen to me, and they'd been paying attention to me when there was nothing else going on.
Yeah.
So there was an emotional connection there, much like Northeast Wrestling, an emotional connection. So I don't know. I don't think they thought to do any more after that, because like, I don't know, like it was kind of a special thing, and they kind of just let that be. Either that or they just got too busy and do it. But I was just supposed to be really quick, and it turned out to be something far bigger than what they expected.
And I don't know how they don't expect you to blow up like that, because like you mentioned, with virtual gimmick table, the connection you have with the Waterbury crowd, Northeast Wrestling in general, I still credit that when you brought out a tent at Pancakes and Pile Drivers WrestleMania weekend was one of the loudest ovations I'd heard all weekend. In a weekend that included Becky Lynch winning a world title, you know, Kofi Kingston winning a world title, and then this tent coming out. It was like, and then of course, what was it, like an 8-man suplex onto it at the end as well? Just it's one of those things that, you know, obviously I think there's people like Jim Cornette may not like, but you know, it's so different, but it works. And I think that's just what's so awesome about you and this character that you portray as well. That's me personally.
Well, I mean, that's very kind, but also here's a little bit of inside baseball. That actually scheduled to come out during the 6-man tag that I had with Jushin Liger earlier that weekend. But that got ixnayed that by some of the other people in the match, but Liger was down.
I feel like Liger would be into something. I mean, he did the human centipede thing a few years back.
Well, so. Like Russell Liger again, and we got an opportunity to do the tent, and that was the finish. So I took a Jushin Thunder Liger brainbuster through a camping tent.
Awesome.
There's multitude of people that have taken a Jushin Thunder Liger brainbuster. I'm the only one to take it through a camping tent.
And those are the moments we live for, folks. Wrestling will live forever because of moments like that. So we will go to our top 3 Tuesday as chosen by our esteemed guest, Mr. Jake Manning, this evening. And so he's chosen top 3 territorial baby faces.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious what you have chosen for your top 3. Do you want to go first or do you want to go last?
I'll go first to kind of like, you know, maybe to preface the whole thing. And I think territorial like era where guys would travel around and move from, they were here and then they were over here and over there. But who was like a guy that was doing the territory, like night in, night out, going to a different place or going to a different territory and being the biggest baby face possible wherever was he a baby face in different places? Did he do the job of being a baby face in a territory? And it's a much different thing because you got to get people to like you. You have to get connect with the local audience, and if you move to a different territory, you have to connect with a different local audience, which is very, very easy to go in, be an asshole in one place, and leave and go be an asshole over here again, and just same asshole things. It's very tough to get people to like you in two different geographical locations, and or in the same one for a long period of time. Because to me, when I think about territorial days and baby faces, the guy's got to cut a promo, and he's got to have staying power. He's got to and versatile. And I keep going back and forth on whether or not to put him in the top three, but I feel like I have to. I feel like because he was such a big deal in Florida and big deal wherever other territories went, I think you got to put Dusty Rhodes right at the top as far as territorial babyface. Don't think it's a whole heck of a lot better than that. With the exception, it gets close with Jerry Lawler. Now he didn't move around as much, but he was in a sustained territory for a long period of time. But then of course you get to look at the USWA, which was kind of like a territory. So he was going to Texas, and he kind of a baby face there. Even still, he was still going after Kerry Von Erich. He had his fans. And then as far as another territorial baby face, I mean, there's a multitude of guys you could pick, but I think Tommy Rich, and the fact that he could go to the Memphis territory, he could go to Georgia, he could go to just about, and then the power of WTS, he could be in Ohio, he could be a big baby face just simply from that television set, and then of course the multitude of other places that went where he was a baby face, even AWA and a lot of other places. And I must put in an honorable mention for a man who did the job accurately all over Texas and never got the credit he deserves. And if we were doing a top five, he's for sure in the top five. But we're doing top three, and to top Tommy Rich, Dusty Rhodes, and Jerry the King Lawler, that's a tough nut to crack. But you got to do an honorable mention for Scott Casey. He was such an unbelievable territorial babyface, and just about any territory in Texas. I think he made even a couple loops to the southeast, and what a great talent. He just unbelievable. Trained Booker T and Stevie Ray. I remember I talked to Ray one time because I did a Cauliflower Alley, and Scott Casey was there. And there's like, and Scott Casey was only like training there one day for NR, but there's like 3 or 4 things that I still tell students that that I learned from Scott Casey. Like there's 3 or 4 things being in an afternoon with Scott Casey that stuck with me for almost 2 decades that I feel important enough to share with students or anybody that looks for knowledge. And when I told it to Stevie Ray, Stevie's, yeah, Scott Casey, he's the man, and everything he said was going to happen, and what we should do was right and correct, and everything he said was going to happen, happened. And just nothing, respect for that guy. So, and as far as territorial babyface, it's a guy who could do a job, go to one territory, he could be in Southwest, he could be another territory in Texas. They could start up like a multitude of other promotions in Texas, and he could come in and be your top babyface right away.
I like that top 3 a lot. I like that a lot. Nick, who are your top 3?
All right. Well, I had Jerry Lawler and Dusty Rhodes on mine also. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little switcheroo here real quick.
All on the fly.
1, 2, and 3. Fabulous Freebirds 3-pack. Terry Gordy, Ricky Garvin, Mr. Dude himself, P.S. Harris.
Okay. I can get behind that. Ryan, how about yourself?
Well, I was going to say, I call myself the micro brawler scholar, and that's probably all I know because Jake dropped the knowledge. I'm not going to be as in depth at all, but I'm going to look Scott Casey up. I appreciate that. Ricky Steamboat, would he count by your guys' opinion?
I thought about that, but I wasn't sure if it counted.
My big encompassing knowledge is very limited. I guess I'm also going for the toyeticness, and we got a dragon Ricky Steamboat, but I'm like, I want the the
NWA.
original Steamboat as well. Yeah. I also had Lawler. Dusty was a first thought of mine. Ricky Morton.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anywhere rock and roll
Rock and Roll Express, a good one.
South.
Yeah.
I mean, Rock and Roll Express is that baby face for sure. I mean, between like their stints in Memphis, for Bill Watts and for Jim Crockett Promotions, and even some of the other like independent like places that were kind of hanging on towards the end, like they would go to. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's tops. And then even count Smoky Mountain as a territory to an extent. So staying.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, Ryan,
and he's
is
still
that all?
going. I don't know if the match already happened. He was fighting Atticus Cogar, like a 20-something-year-old coming up soon, or maybe the match just happened.
It just happened in Wyoming.
Okay. Was there a Canadian destroyer?
I'm sure there was.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like favorite thing to do. And the thing is that like here's another inside the baseball thing. I hate the secrets are real. The Canadian destroyer, the trick is the guy who is taking the Canadian destroyer breaks that. It's because he's the one that who would expect that I can do a Canadian destroyer, but I can do a Canadian destroyer when Caleb Conley is the one taking it.
Mhm.
It ain't me. It ain't my athleticism. It's him. So that's with that move. And Ricky found that out the hard way, that the guy who's doing that move better be good enough to do the move.
On that note about the guy who's taking the move, I recall one. Whenever I see something go a little weird in the ring or a botch or something, I bust out my cell phone, rewind it, record it, play through and such. But I don't know if you guys recall on Dynamite, it was MJF, I think, and Mr. Hungy, what's his name?
John Silver.
There you go. A little behind my AEW. They did one where he almost like from shoulder height. I don't know. Anyways, I could tell, like you said, that one looked funky. It was like yeah. Moving on. How about, you already said Kerry Von Erich. That's pretty, probably maybe a given. Junkyard Dog, was he JYD pretty big baby face?
Comic product, and he was huge, and I don't think anybody was bigger than him in Louisiana. Like New Orleans, he was the man, and like he had Bill Watts down pretty much on lock right there. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like territorial baby. I just exclude anything that was happening in WWF unless it was like, Vince Senior.
Yeah.
So that's what I distinct, like anytime that Vince McMahon was in there with the WWF, anytime that he was there doing it, I was like, okay, they're a different deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, then I need a ruling on mine because I'm not too sure about it. Bruno Sammartino, does that count?
I mean, he was in that territory. He was a big deal in Toronto. As far as that New York territory, when it was a territory, there wasn't a whole lot of people that were bigger than that. So
Yeah. I'll be honest, when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, I didn't realize how big of a deal he was till I started doing my research. I was like, oh, they're finally inducting Bruno. I was like, what's the big deal? He was the champion for like 20 years. Why isn't he? Then he did my homework. I'm like, oh, this is why it's a big deal. So it was pretty awesome to just like listen to his Hall of Fame speech at the Garden. I was like, this is pretty rad. And then, of course, every other one that I had was stolen. I had Jerry Lawler, then I had Dusty Rhodes, and I had the Von Erichs. So, yeah, we'll put those as a 2. And then I'm going to cheat on my third one because I still count it as a territory-ish. I'm going with Jake Manning as my Northeast territory nowadays. I'm counting that.
I'm also big in Iowa, too, and the Southeast. So you wouldn't be wrong, and I would fall in those qualifications. So
exactly.
I think you're kind of.
Yeah. Like, I think I saw you the first time was at the Renegades Rampage Rumble, whatever it was, like in 2008 or something. And I remember like thinking, it was like, this guy's a Boy Scout. That's his gimmick. But then like, I keep like following Northeast Wrestling and it just keeps catching on. And then you could walk into any gym in the state of Connecticut or New York or Jersey or anywhere in the Northeast, and you're the biggest deal. Like in rooms that had like I said, and over the top, like, and I hate to be gushing and fangirling out, but like in a room that had Darby Allin, Marty Scurll before all that stuff, the Gorillas of Destiny, you were one of the most over acts that night. So that's my number 3.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes. So let us know your top 3 Tuesday in the comments section below. Jake, do you have anything you want to plug, merch, podcast, anything you've got that you want people to check you out with?
Oh, this is a very weird time for me right now. I wish I could plug where my merch site is. I don't have that right now. I'm going to be working on that. That'll be coming out probably sometime in August. I'm just going to do it myself. That's the big spoiler, and I'm going to do it myself because I don't want a pro wrestling tee store, nor do I think I can get one. Pintsized AllStars are nice, but I think they got a little perturbed that Pintsized AllStars is a thing, and I had mine, even though I was never going to get a micro brawler of me. But I'd rather package up all my T-shirts and all my merch myself and ship it off to the fans of the Man Scout and package it put a little bit of love in there to each one of the fans. As far as like a podcast or show or anything like that, big announcements about that coming soon. I mean, if we did this interview probably in July, you'd probably be in the thick of what I have planned, which I was just testing out. I appreciate you guys' patience with a very hectic day with me. Just as a reminder, kids, if you have Adobe Encore, don't update your computer because you will ruin your entire life. So let that be your little tech tip of the day from the Man Scout. But just follow me on Twitter. I've got a couple of things to announce and some shows. It's very slow right now. It just really, I've emailed and DM'd every promoter in the world. So if you are a viewer, a fan, anybody that's like, hey, Manscaped, I want to see you here. Well, chances are I've already sent them a message. And the thing that's going to help them answer that message is if you tweet at them, if there's a local wrestling promotion that you're like, I'd really like to see the Man Scout, go ahead and tweet at that local wrestling promotion, email that wrestling promotion, Facebook comment, Facebook message, and let them know that you want to see me. And it's just going to push it forward and highly likelihood that I'll end up being there. So especially as the world opens up, I'm ready and available to get out there and just do it, man.
I will personally message Mike Lombardi after we get done here to remind him to just keep booking you and never stop because it's the best.
I think there'll be some big stuff coming up very, very soon with me and Northeast Wrestling. Be paying that, and coming to Heat Wave will be your first good start of that.
Can't wait. I am very excited for Heat Wave in July with Northeast Wrestling, and we're excited for all the wrestling to open back up this summer. So on behalf of myself, Nick, Ryan, and the Man Scout, don't forget, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to this channel, check us out on Facebook and Twitter at WNRDB. You can check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/WNRDB, ProWrestlingTees.com/The Wrestling Nerd Broadcast. And don't forget, that is nerd spelled NRD. So again, on behalf of myself, the King, DaveCTheVoice, the founding father, Nick Carpenter, the Micro Brawler Scholar, Ryan Crossley, and of course, the Man Scout, Mr. Jake Manning. Don't forget to tell your mother you love her every day because like Kevin Durant said, Mom, you're the real MVP. Good night, everyone, and God bless America.